Is the Samsung Galaxy A16 5G still worth buying 1 year later? Well, in this video, we're gonna find out. What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, and this is the Samsung Galaxy A16 5G. Now, this device was launched back in October of 2024, so at this point, the phone has been out for a full year. And ever since being launched, this phone has been a very successful device for Samsung. It definitely makes sense why this phone has been selling so well, because for a lot of people, this is pretty much all you need, but at the same time, this phone is still very affordable. Most people don't need to be spending over $1,000 for a flagship smartphone, and instead, they just want a device with a decent looking display, some good cameras, and a phone that's not super slow. And this phone pretty much meets all of that criteria. And to make things even better, since being launched, Samsung has continued to improve this device with continuous and consistent software updates. Now, one of my favorite things about the A16 5G definitely has to be the display that we're getting here at the phone. Now, with this device, we're getting this massive 6.7-inch display, but to make things even better, this display features Super AMOLED technology. So with AMOLED, we're getting great colors, also really good viewing angles as well. Everything just pops here on this display, which definitely makes this phone fantastic for watching video content, for example, but even doing other things like going on social media, browsing the web. It just is a great experience overall because of this very large, good-looking canvas. Now, in addition to that, we're also getting a 90 Hz refresh rate here with the phone, so a very fast and smooth refresh rate, which is certainly very helpful. The display itself is 1080p, so everything's clear in that aspect as well. We're getting a PPI of 385, a 19.5 by 9 aspect ratio, so a narrow but tall form factor, and then finally, we're getting an 86% screen to body ratio. So pretty small bezels all throughout. However, the bottom bezel is a bit thicker, and then up top here, we do have a water drop notch, and in that notch is a 13 megapixel front-facing camera. Now, to see a variety of different photo and video samples, definitely take a look at the review I did about this device quite some time ago. Just search it up on my channel and you'll find that content. Now, with this phone, we're getting 128 gigabytes of storage, which is actually quite a bit, especially for a budget device. But in addition to that, we're also getting microSD card expansion. So I appreciate that not only are we getting a lot of storage here as it is, but you can always offload photos and videos, for example, onto that microSD card to access even more of that internal space. And in general, that just gives us a lot of value here with this device. For example, the Google Pixel 10 Pro, which is a way more expensive phone than this one, I'm pretty sure you can buy like 4 of these for the same price as that phone, actually gives us the same amount of storage for the base configuration. So that's definitely one example of many why we're getting so much value here with the A16 5G. Now, with this device, there's no wireless charging, which is a bit unfortunate, but we are getting a side-mounted fingerprint sensor, and that works really well. Let's try that one more time. And there we go, it's very quick. And then in addition to the fingerprint sensor, we're also getting face unlock. So I do appreciate that we're getting multiple methods here for getting into the phone, and that whole setup is very convenient. Now, with this phone, we're getting a triple camera setup on the back with a 50 megapixel main camera, a 5 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, and a 2 megapixel macro camera for close-up images. So here's how things look on the camera app. This is the main camera right now. Now you can see up top here, it does say 12M, and by default, it actually captures images at 12 megapixels. So if you do want to tap up there, it'll switch it over to 50M, and then from there, you can actually take full advantage of that 50 megapixel rear camera. Now the reason why that's not enabled by default is because for a lot of people, they don't even need 50 megapixels, really only in certain situations. So if it was the default, then all your images would be very large in file size. But nonetheless, I'm still glad that we are getting that option here. Now, in addition to that, you'll see this option down there that says 0.5. Go to that, and you can see we have now switched on the ultra-wide camera, so you can fit a lot more content into a single frame. I'm definitely a fan of using the ultra-wide in many situations, especially when I'm traveling. It's very convenient for that because I can take photos of all of my surroundings. For example, maybe I'm in a city and I want to take a photo of a very large building. It's great for that as well. Now then from there, we can go over to the More tab, access the macro camera, and then with macro, I can get very close up and have things be in really good detail. So definitely a nice bonus with the macro camera. We can also go over to portrait mode and get those nice blurred out backgrounds, and then I can flip around to the front facing camera and take portrait selfies, and there's even an option here for group selfies. Also, you can take standard selfies as well. So there's just a lot of different options when it comes to the various cameras here with the Galaxy A16 5G. Now, one limitation though with these cameras is that video recording unfortunately is limited at 1080p for both the rear and front cameras. So there is no 4K video, so if that is something that is important to you, then just know that you're not getting that here. Now with this device, we're getting 6GB of RAM, and we're also getting the Samsung Exynos 1330 processor. Now based on the region that you're in, there are actually some regions where this phone comes with a MediaTek processor instead, but this specific phone does have the Exynos processor. Now overall, I've actually been very impressed with the performance of this device, especially considering that this phone is not meant to be a high-end smartphone. So of course, if I'm spending $1,000, the phone better be fast. But even for a phone like this, it's still decently fast, everything runs very smoothly, and I really expected things to be a lot slower in comparison. So don't worry about that. Definitely if you're someone who just wants to use the core fundamentals of a smartphone, you want to check your email, you want to browse the web, maybe take some photos here and there, watch some videos, then this phone will be perfectly fine for you. Now I did run a benchmark test using Geekbench 6, and I'll show you the scores in that test right now. But basically, I got a single core score of 978, and a multi-core score of 2183. So what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and then compare your scores to these scores to see how the Galaxy A16 5G measures up to what you currently have. Because definitely you wouldn't want to upgrade to this device if it happens to be slower than what you have right now. But in general, for a phone in this segment, I feel like those scores are plenty fast. This is not a slow device by any means, and that's definitely great to see. Now another nice thing with this phone is that we're getting a very large internal battery at 5,000 milliamp hours. And along with that, we're getting up to 25 watt fast charging. So not only is that battery very big, giving us very good battery life, but it also is very convenient to be able to recharge that battery pretty quickly as well at 25 watts. So I'm definitely a big fan of that feature. I'm glad we're getting that fast charging here with the big battery. So that is another nice bonus with the A16 5G. Now with this device, we are getting NFC, so you can use this phone for tap and pay, which is definitely very convenient. This phone does feature a plastic build. The display here, of course, has glass on the outside, but everything else is plastic. I do like this finish on the back. Generally, I do prefer to have a matte finish on my smartphone, but at the same time, this glossy finish is actually a pretty good implementation. And I like as well that based on the angle that you're looking at it, it kind of has this cool glowing effect to it. So Samsung did do a good job with this overall. But on the right side here, we have volume up and volume down. We also have the power button, which doubles as the fingerprint sensor. On the left side, we just have the slot for the micro SD card and SIM card. Up top here, we have the noise canceling microphone. And then on the bottom of the device, we have the microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and the speaker. And that's pretty much it. So unfortunately, there is no headphone jack here with the phone. So if you do want to use your traditional wired headphones, you will have to plug in some sort of adapter. Now, in 2025, most people are using wireless headphones instead. But if you are someone who does want to use your wired headphones, just know that you're not going to be able to do that here by default. But overall, I think the Galaxy A16 5G is a very awesome smartphone. Definitely still worth getting at this point, even though it's been out for a year. And this phone is going to continue to get a lot of updates. From the beginning, this phone came out with Android 14, and Samsung has pledged to provide 6 years of major Android software updates, and so far, they have already been delivering on that promise, which is great. So this will be a very well-supported device as time goes on, and overall, I do recommend getting the Galaxy A16 5G. I suppose you might want to consider what other options you could get for the same price. That might be the only reason why you wouldn't want to get this phone. But on its own, this phone definitely stands on its 2 feet and does bring a lot to the table. But thanks again for watching. This is Kevin, and I'll see you in the next video.